I've had this vision just to do like a stripped down night of worship where guys bring in their amazing songs. They've written incredible God-given authority to lead in worship, and just team up with them on a stage and just see what happens every night. And we've created like a really loose roadmap to follow every night with songs that we want to play, but we've left it really open for just like waiting on God and seeing what songs are supposed to happen and what moments are supposed to happen and prayers are supposed to be said. And it's just been so free and beautiful. Honestly, walking into the tour, I think all of us were a little bit like, because there's no precedent for this, we're all a little bit like, I hope this sounds good, and we all like play guitar on time together, you know? And maybe it doesn't sound that great, but I hope it does. But even beyond that, it's just been really special in a spiritual way, and I'm so excited to end it here in my home turf of Southern California. And what we've done every night here, just to kind of get this started, there's a lot of people, so I'm guessing hopefully there's going to be a lot of questions, and but also not just questions. If you guys have comments or stories you want to tell about how Mack's voice has changed your life or anything like that, we'd love to hear it. And more than just like, you know, we're up here with all the answers, we'd love to have a conversation and answer questions, and also hear about what's going on in your church, whatever you want to talk about. But just to get it started, I'm Phil, and so honored to be here. Born and raised in Southern California. I grew up in Costa Mesa till I was 13. My dad was the worship leader at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, with Chuck Smith when he was still alive. And so I grew up at that church. Then we moved down to San Diego when I was 12. And in that, when we moved down to San Diego, I had this whole summer break, nothing to do, and so my dad gave me one of his guitars, said, hey, this can be your guitar if you learn how to play it. I learned how to play it, loved it, was too shy to ever lead. I did not want to lead worship, but I loved playing guitar. But I had this amazing youth pastor who just was doing his job, I guess, and pushing kids on stage and to serve and to lead. And he did that to me against my will, literally, like shoved me on stage. He said, everybody welcome Phil! Literally, that's what he did. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And so it was horrible, it was so bad, but he kept giving me an opportunity to lead. And I remember about 2 months into it, I was singing, I could sing of your love forever. Remember that song? Yeah. And I just remember I wasn't looking at the chord chart, I wasn't like focused on what I was playing or singing, I was just worshiping, and I opened my eyes and I realized there was like 40 other junior high kids worshiping with me, and I just thought, this is amazing. And I remember in that moment saying, God, however long you want me to do this, I'm willing, because I love being in these moments. And thankfully now, 20 years later, I'm 33 now, God is still taking these songs and letting, it's amazing, and what an honor that churches would sing the songs, and I'm just following those songs around and get to hang out with people that I'm big fans of, and it's been an amazing tour.
Hey, I'm Matt. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. Still the South, just not the cool part of the South. I mean, I think it's cool, but I understand if y'all don't think it's cool. Yeah, I grew up, my dad's a Southern Baptist pastor. I grew up in the church, grew up leading worship for my youth group and all that stuff. And for the past 10 years, I was a part of Elevation Church, Elevation Worship, and kind of really saw what it kind of took to build like worship teams and to build a worship culture and all that. And then in May, me and my wife felt like our season was done, and felt like God was just asking us to step out into a new season. And so we're kind of living in that new season now, and it's been great.
Yeah, we're Bryan Katie Torwalt, and he's going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. I was a pastor's kid growing up, and was deeply affected by worship in my dad's church. And even as a little kid, I remember 3-4 years old, just being able to connect with the Lord and feel the presence of God in worship. And so it definitely changed the course of my life, lots of different moments in services growing up. Me and Bryan I'll let him tell some of the story, but we are part of Jesus Culture, which is a worship movement, and now it's a church in Sacramento, California. We've been part of that for about 7 years, and we love it. We're so blessed and so grateful just to be part of a community. This is only about 5 to maybe 10% of what we do, and we're so grateful that we get to just experience, I guess, that community aspect outside of just tours and the family. It's really cool, but I'll let him share too.
Yeah, Brian, I have been changed by Mack's voice. I just want to be the first one. But yeah, I grew up not a pastor's kid, but I did grow up in church. I'm the only one that wasn't a pastor's kid. I feel left out. But grew up mostly loving sports, still love sports, but really thought, deep down inside, I was like, I could probably play in the NBA. In the middle of nowhere in Canada, 5'6" in like the 10th grade, maybe. God blessed me with this body of a poet, and all my aspirations for the NBA went out the window. But when I was 16, in youth group, my youth pastor, I started singing for my buddies Battle of the Bands, like one thing, randomly. And my youth pastor gave me his PV electric guitar, stack of chord charts, and a date written on the top, and just said, you're leading worship on this date, like a few months down the road, for our youth group of 20 people. If you could play the songs, awesome. If not, we'll have a band that can back you. And that kind of, he saw something in me that I kind of was like, had a little bit of a desire for, but he saw it in me way before that I knew it was something that, I would spend my life doing for sure, and called it out in me. And yeah, we met, dated long distance for a long time, got married. Now I get to lead worship with my wife as a job. It's the best job ever. Questions? You jump into the question time? If you have a question, comment, or want to tell Mack how much you love his voice, then raise. Do we have a mic that's going around since it's a big room, or are we going to have to shout real loud? Shout. Okay, it's alright. If we can try and talk loud, if not, we'll try and repeat the question as best we can. Yeah.
How do you guys balance spontaneity with the need to have like a set program? Speaking to people who, make programs, worship programs, how do you speak to that? How can you speak to
that? In like a night like this, or just in general?
Just like a normal
Sunday morning
service.
How do you balance spontaneity with like a planned set?
Right.
Basically. I would say we're probably all a little bit different. I would say that even personally, like I'm like a planned out. I like to know exactly what's supposed to happen. And she's a little bit more free than me, which is, we balance each other out. But even within our local church, we always, we send out the sets on a Tuesday, so that the band comes. We don't have like a midweek rehearsal space, so the band has to come. Sunday morning is a sound check, it's not a rehearsal. It's like they have to know all the parts, they have to, it's best, it's like, they have to know the parts. Yeah. But it's expected that they would come knowing the parts, knowing the order and all that kind of stuff. And the idea is that we would be excellent enough that freedom would be easy from that place. It's like we try and teach our community, like if you know your craft well, all of a sudden it's a lot easier to follow the Holy Spirit in those moments. And so there's definitely a definite structure, but with our church, we definitely have a lot of freedom to flow, and we'll practice, like as we're teaching bands, like, hey, maybe we'll probably end up sticking on these on the chorus chord progression or something like that, and we'll just stay there for a little bit. If it feels like we go, then let's build, hand signals, all that kind of stuff. But you want to say?
Even for the spontaneous moments, even for me and my band, like it's way different when you have different volunteers coming every week. But even for me and my band, when it's the same guys for the last 4, 5, 6 years, I still like, hey, in this set, I through some prayer and through understanding kind of where I am that night and who we're gonna be in front of and serving, it's like, hey, where's a moment we could really, like, when I look through the songs, where's a moment that might really be able to speak into where this community's at and what God's speaking to me, and maybe it's like, I'm going through the set list and we're gonna lead, after I sing a song called Beautiful, we're gonna go into What a Beautiful Name, and I know something about the church recently happened, it's like, okay, so in my mind, I really try to set up a real good structure for me to be spontaneous over. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my band is doing a lot of work, and the bands that we're in front of, if we're leading, the band behind us are carrying a lot, and to leave them kind of, okay, where are we going? That's like a recipe for a little bit of a train wreck, but to say, hey, like, we're gonna hit King of My Heart, and it's just that 6, 5, 4, 1 chord over and over. And after we sing that last "You Are Good," oh, just, hey, can you just be on, still let the click go and be on those chords? I just feel like maybe God wants to do something in that. And if he doesn't, I'll turn around and say, start the next song, you know? But the band is, like, I feel like it's fair to them. I'm being fair to them, saying, hey, like, don't go in the next song. Like, let's take a moment and see if we need to sing it again. Let's take it, you know, even when I'm on stage, like, I mean, to not let, like, those kind of quiet moments, not to try to rush through them like it's awkward or weird, but like, okay, like, we're done, we've sung that song for 5 minutes, and those chords are going, and I'm up on stage saying, God, do you have anything to say right now, you know, like, and my band is back, and they're creating the moment, and they're doing their job, and just like ours would be if you're a worship leader, you got guys behind you, and so you're relying on them to kind of keep the flow going, but in your heart, as the leader, it's like, God, like, do you have something prophetic to say? Do you have something to do right now? And it's happened this night. These nights have been amazing. As I pray that, I feel like very specific things come on my heart. Like I just feel like people just need to hear that there's freedom in the presence of God, and that we can just step into that. Like that's just one night that was so big in my heart. So I just started singing over that. And there's freedom in your presence. There was freedom, and people started singing it with me. It became a moment, you know. And I think having those moments where the band knows where they're going, but you can really step back and, God, what? Okay, you sung that. Where are you? Where are you leading us now? You know. So I think it's really important to have. What's another question? Right in the front.
What inspired you to write songs?
I mean, I think all of us would say, like, keeping our eyes open throughout life, you know? I think that's a mark of someone who's kind of really worked. He said, what inspires you to write songs sometimes? Sorry, I need to repeat the question. And I think once you start working your songwriting muscle more and more and more, and you start to realize kind of where you rest as a songwriter, and you've kind of written songs, and people have spoken into them, and you realize, okay, I'm not very good at this, I'm good at that, and you start co-writing with other people that are better than you, and you're just kind of getting more of an instinct of where you are as a songwriter, and what kind of songs your church connects to. And once you start to really, like, that songwriting muscle is kind of built up and is in practice, then you start to see normal everyday life moments, like really special moments, not just as, oh, that was a special moment, I'm going to put that on my Instagram story, you know? Not just that, but you're thinking like, whoa, like, I just saw God in an amazing way, whether it's creation or someone that you knew had a little baby, and it was this really special moment or whatever, or it was through a dark time or whatever. It's just like, then you start seeing those moments as potential songs, you know? And so life seen through the eyes of like being saved by grace is what inspires me to write something.
Another question?
Whatever you like.
Yeah, let's go with another question. Good sir in the back.
My wife and I know God has a calling on us to use our music to lead others in authentic worship, and to wake up spiritual followers of Christ and proclaim the word of God in love to those who struggle to believe. What advice do you have as we wait for his door to open? And how would you suggest we prepare in the meantime?
Who's asking
Great question.
kind of, I guess, advice for leading worship, or kind of waiting for God to kind of like open the doors to lead worship, and kind of what to do to prepare for that? I would say the biggest thing that I would do is just lead every single chance that you get. You know, lead it. You know, I remember like growing up, just trying to just lead worship like for the middle school ministry, when it like no one was like zoned in at all, and it was just like a nightmare. But it gave me the chance to like, you know, to get better at it. It gave me a chance to like not kind of get fazed by all the like distractions that's going on. But then, you know, just finding like any way that you can to like serve, and finding any chance that you can to be a servant for your church, to find a community to get plugged into, and say like, whatever y'all need, like I'm ready to serve. And that's something that we've talked a lot about on this tour, is like one of the best things you can do as a worship leader is to mentally have that shift of like, I'm not necessarily even like just leading worship, like I'm serving these people. And we're the servant that is serving the people. We're serving the house. We're serving our pastor. And just finding that mentality will save you like a lot of like confusion and headache and heartache, and it just kind of shifts our perspective. So, yes, sir.
What do you do when you're in a situation and you're just not connecting with the drummer or the bass player? What do you do in that?
Like they're just
not connecting
not very good musicians.
Basically, like say they're not connecting with the song, they're not following your lead, and then like, what do you do spiritually to stay in an attitude of worship?
Okay, so he's asking, if you're playing, your band's not like zoned in.
Oh my God.
They seem like they were still zoned in.
Have you guys seen the Oceans video when it's not the girl, she's like, and it's like, that's what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about? Well, are you like in a worship leader kind of situation where there's volunteers, which is probably 100% of the worship leaders here? I think you got to remember, also as servants, we're also like we're pastors, whether or not we're ordained. Like we have a really cool community of creative people, of people that have put little or a lot of time into their craft. And so to not just come on stage like, man, my band rocks isn't like the one true big goal, you're like a pastor of a little community of creatives that are into music, and so you have these opportunities to speak so much into people, and so I think a lot of the connecting on stage, most of it, of knowing where you're going and having the same heart and same mind on stage, it happens off stage, over meals and over emails and over spending time together, and I think once you've connected like a heart and also as a leader and as a worship leader, to really spend time casting vision for hey, this service, like taking that role of not just, hey, we're gonna play through these songs, hopefully we get them all good, but as the leader, to stand up, whether you're 16 or 66, whatever, it's to stand up and say, hey, pastor's teaching on this tonight, and it's about the Battle of Jericho and how they had to trust in God, and so we're doing Blessed Be Your Name, and we're doing I can't think of another Trust in You song, but we're doing these Trust in You songs, and Oceans is a perfect Trust in You song. And so after Blessed Be Your Name, and you can even talk, I was really thinking about, I think it'd be cool, after Blessed Be Your Name, we're gonna open up the Word and read these promises about how we can trust God. And I think we can really lead people in with into a place where they're ready to hear about this story, And I think I think through years of that with a team of hey, we're here for an important reason, to really pave the way for people to have a bigger understanding of the faithfulness of God. Bigger, as a pastor, I think it's not going to be media, obviously. It's this long-term thing of getting people on the same page, so they're not just playing the things they learned in high school and jazz class, all day, but they're on the same page.
One other just practical thing, and this is something that we've also talked about throughout this tour, is as you're building a team, if you've got young guys or maybe inexperienced guys or guys at different level of quality musicianship, is to simplify. To maybe sometimes songs you gotta simplify to the most basic common denominator, just to make it sound good. And that was something that I learned leading youth bands and leading with high school kids that were just learning how to play the guitar. I would say, all right, I know that you're literally not capable of playing this guitar part, so we're not going to play this guitar part, we're just going to play something really simple, or we're going to play, I wouldn't say it like that to them, just so you all know. Mentally, I would say, all right, this guy's not going to be able to do this, difficult part, so let's just strip it down. Let's just make it a really basic, and we can do basic really, really well. And then, the longer you do it, the better you get. So.
Yeah.
Just to encourage you to, at least for us in our experience, culture takes a long time to build. And especially within a team and especially within a church, it's not ever overnight. It's not usually even just 6 months or a year. It just takes time. And I think that just your investment that you're showing, like he was saying, the meals, the time that you pour into individual people, they'll feel that, and that trust and that team will build, and the culture of worship will build, just even as they watch you authentically live that out. So for us, it took a lot longer than we thought it was going to take, and now we're still seeing different levels of that, over time. But a lot of these movements, these worship movements, maybe they're for you, you've heard about them in the last couple of years, but most of them are 15, 20, 25 years old that culture began to take shape. And so, just to encourage you. Oh, okay, yes. Yes.
Okay. Hi guys. Okay, so I just started doing worship for my young adults, teens. So I don't know, we always just watch videos before and stuff. But it's kind of started off, kind of got pushed into it too, kind of like what you're saying. But I went to a women's conference, and on the 3 days we were there, 3 different ladies bought me guitar picks because they all knew I played guitar, but I never sang or anything. So then I went to my overseer. I'm like, listen, I brought my guitar today. I'm gonna just jam, okay? He's like, all right. But how do you? I still get pretty nervous, even being in front of the same group. Sometimes I do get called to do other worship stuff, kind of backup worship. But I'm like, she knows, I get really shaky. And how do you guys keep from being burnt? Because I'm kind of doing it solo right now, and I've been praying for someone to maybe step up and help me, even if they're on the cajon or something, because I did just acoustic. So how does
What was your name?
Cynthia?
So you're kind of just asking how do you maintain a level of worship without getting just burnt out, and without letting nerves take over, kind of? Is that sort of the question?
It happens to me in the beginning, but then once I'm in it, I'm like, okay, fine.
In the beginning, struggling with nervousness and feeling shaky and not feeling super sure, but after a while feeling more comfortable. Yeah, that's a good question. You guys have an answer? Yeah.
I would first off just say that, you're anointed and appointed for the position that you have at your church. And somebody, a leader, a pastor, somebody, saw something in you and said, I'm gonna give you this, leadership role. And so, having that confidence already, should already start breaking some of those walls down. Be confident in the fact that God has, appointed you in this position. He's given you the keys to this position. So, stand in that confidence. And then from just a real tangible thing for me for nerves, that I just learned that I just had to practice a whole lot. I had to know the song inside and out, so that because the only time I would get nervous is if I didn't know the song very well. And I was thinking, the whole time I'm singing it or leading it, I'm thinking about, how does this song even go? What's the melody? What are the words? And so I would just say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to know, every song I lead, I'm going to know it inside and out. My mind's not going to wander, and I can focus on the task at hand, which is to lead people in worship. And so practice, but also just I don't know. I hope spiritually, for real, there's a spiritual side of that you've been given that authority from a leader in your church. And so for all of you that have been given that authority, walk in that confidence. And that's not to say that you'll be there forever, you'll be in that position for forever, but in this moment, for such a time as this, God has placed you there. So let that be at least the starting point of your confidence. So
Who's had their hand up for a while? Hey, Jason. It's my old youth pastor, everybody. Not my old youth pastor. He's not that old. He's my youth pastor.
That's your question.
Did you have a...
I did have a question.
Oh, yeah, what's your question?
So you have all worked with different churches before. What helps you interacting with the pastors that you're working with for that relationship? I know most people here are worship leaders, but from a pastor's perspective and a worship leader working with a pastor, what helps and what's been a benefit in that relationship?
Well, I probably have a little bit of a different perspective, because these guys have all been on staff at church. Well, you've been on staff at church, and they have too. If I've been anywhere regularly, I've never been on salary on staff anywhere. But each one of us, often, I deal with a different pastor almost everywhere I go, and not deal like in a bad way, but it's a new relationship and a new like connecting with like, hey, what's going on in this church, and how do I serve? How do we come in and like be a part of what's already going on here? And I think for me, what I would speak into that, I'll let them speak in that too, because I think they'd have some real good practical advice too. Is what Mack was saying is how we answer a lot of these questions, is like this mentality of like, I'm here walking into this building, like whether it's every day or Sunday mornings, I'm here as a servant. I'm not here first as a creative. I'm not here first as a cool worship leader. I'm here as like, hey, like, how can I serve the moment? Like, what is going on here, and how do I come alongside of what God is already doing in this community? How do I point people? Like, God has given me He's given us such a crazy responsibility to like, almost, I mean, this isn't like theologically necessarily correct. I don't know if it's incorrect, but I kind of almost view like worship leading as like, maybe the pastor is kind of pastoring like mentally, like teaching and leading a body into like a new place, and they're learning and growing, and worship leading is a lot like, almost like pastoring the heart and the intimacy of a church, and like teaching the church how to come near the throne room and come boldly and be unashamed and view Jesus as precious and sweet and kind, you know, and like that's like our role as a worship pastor, not just to get them singing, but over a long-term period is to pastor a group of people into a new place of intimacy in their hearts, you know, like, and it's such a responsibility, you know, and so to come in like, Lord, help me, let me follow you, and let me do, and so to answer the question with the pastor, it's like coming in like saying like so much respect, you know, even if there's stuff to not respect about him, which there is about every man, right? But even coming in like, hey, like this is where God's put him, this is where God's put me. Where do you see this service going? Like, let's work alongside of each other. Like, what do you have to say to the crowd right now? Are there any songs that come to your mind that would be awesome going into your message, and being a servant, you know, not just like, Pastor, we need to do this, but like, hey, like, how can I come, you know, and serve?
Yeah, that was really good. We really tried to connect with our pastor. We were on staff as worship pastors for 4 years before we got became part of Jesus culture. And something that I think spoke volumes, and hopefully that I feel like was something the Lord told us to do. I don't know if it's for everybody, but it really felt like something that was in our heart to do, was just invest our time, our energy, our money back in to the team. To our pastor, we would seek out like, hey, can we go to coffee? Hey, like outside of a meeting that you're scheduled to have for a team, you know, moment. Hey, can we do lunch? Hey, can we meet you at your son's soccer game? We just want to connect with you, and we want to be friends. We want to share our lives, and you know, there's different types of relationships. You're not going to be best friends with everybody, but just to like get that heart connection was huge, I think, for us. And to this day, we just like, we came home for a couple of days in between this tour, and we text our pastor, like, can we fit into your schedule? Like, if we meet you at your office with lunch, like, can you fit in? And not for an emergency, not for like a huge breakdown moment. There was actually no agenda at all. And we just wanted to come and just connect with his heart. And I think those moments are my favorite for us. You want to add anything else? Good. Okay. I like to talk, so I got to check in sometimes. Yes. Actually, you had your hand up for a long time. Did you change your mind? Yeah, you with the hat. I saw you with your hand up. It's okay. He changed his mind. It's cool. Okay. Yes, you right here with your, yeah.
Oh. Hi.
Hi.
Me and my wife lead worship at a small Calvary, and you're like all of our favorite artists. You're the best. Especially you guys are inspiring because you're married. But I had a question about just leading worship on a regular basis. Sometimes it's like great, but you definitely go through seasons where your church feels like they're really dry or not into it. And how do you stay like motivated in those times and not get discouraged?
Thank you for us being an inspiration. Us being a married couple. That's what I meant. Sorry, that came because they lead worship married, we lead worship married. Guys, sometimes I say things that sometimes it comes out of my mouth and it's not what I mean. Anyway, he was asking about us leading like the same community. you know, all the time, and you go through phases of like, it feels like, okay, we're going somewhere, and then sometimes it feels dry. I'll have that, definitely. And I think there is seasons, I would say, you know, finding the songs that you connect to, that are moving you in the moment. And sometimes it's like introducing a song, so maybe it's writing a song for your congregation. Maybe it's like, in terms of like worship, I feel like when we were on staff at that church for 4 years, we were leading a ton. And every Sunday for like 2 years straight, we led, and a lot of Thursdays as well. And we started writing, and for us, it became like this community thing where as we began to write for our local church, they got so excited about the songs that were coming out because they took ownership in them as well. And for us, honestly, it was like, when we started day one, it was like so hard and so dry, and it would go from like, okay, 1 Sunday out of 5 was like a good one, and then it'd be 4 struggles, and then slowly it was like half and half, and then after a couple of years it was like, you know, 5 good ones, and then 1 that felt like, okay, that was a struggle, you know? And so building culture, like she said earlier, takes time for sure. But in those moments, finding the songs that move you, because if it moves you, it'll move the congregation, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. Anyone want to add? We're good.
I mean, it's really, I'm trying to think of an actual example of this, and I probably shouldn't be answering because I can't, but one thing I found that helps me is like, it's just keep, one thing that I get burnt out on is like the same like thing over and over, like the same formula. Like, I feel like when I get stuck, like, doing, like, the same, okay, I know I've got 17 minutes when the pastor sings, and I do half a song at the end, and that's 5 years of that, you know what I mean, or something. It's just like, and there's no, like, and so, for me, what helps me is like, okay, Lord, like, what's something fresh we could do, literally, like, practically? Is it like, hey, like, the synth is starting, and instead of me starting up with a song, it's like, hey, can we all stand up together? Like, let's wake up for a second, like, hey, like, listen to this story, and it's Jesus forgiving this accused woman who committed adultery, and everybody wanted to stone her, all the religious people wanted to stone her, but Jesus said, I don't accuse you, you know, and that's the God we're singing to right now, and people are like, oh, we've never done this before, and that's true, and now we're going to sing, our God is greater, our God is stronger, you know what I mean? It's just like having ways, that's again, like, yeah, a little push, a little like, hey, this is different, you know, like, or if it's like, hey, we're going to start with one song, but then I'm talking with my pastor earlier saying, hey, like, it just felt kind of like weird the last couple months, last couple weeks, like no one's singing, like, can we like start just with one song and then like, can we like maybe, what are you speaking on? Could it work well to do like the worship at the end and you kind of help us lead people into like a place of like, hey, let's respond to what we just talked about. And maybe you stay on the stage and show people what it's like to lift your hand. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, let's teach, let's inspire and pastor and teach them like to get back to the feet of Jesus, you know. And this isn't just like, you know, social club that we come to every Sunday morning, you know. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Yes.
I was just gonna say very briefly, something that the Lord convicts me about sometimes when I have these moments too, where I'm just like disappointed at the response. And he was like, I just feel this like thing in my heart sometimes where he's like, well, you need to risk first. Like you've been, you know, you do this and you have these moments and you're great and you're comparing all these different moments to this moment, but sometimes we have to step outside of what we've done and what we've become comfortable with, and it kind of gives permission to other people to be like, oh, there is something new happening, like God's doing something new today. And for me, there's a lot of different answers to that question, but I think sometimes it does look like pushing yourself first and risking first, and other people will follow that as leader. Yeah, stepping out in faith in different moments. Once again, when you're connected to your pastor, that's a lot safer. It doesn't feel as crazy. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question somewhat.
So maybe, I think we have time for like 3 or 4 really quick ones. So yeah, right behind you.
How do you finish a song?
You just do it. Finish the song. Even if you don't believe in it, like, man, this song's been around forever. I need to finish it. And then you send it to your pastor, your friend, whoever you think is like can speak into it, and they say, hey, this is great right here. What if you, and then let people speak into it. Just finish it, seriously. That's what man, okay, everything's good except for the second verse. Lord, I love you, Lord, I need you. You're always gonna be there for me. I'm gonna worship you and sing this. Okay, that's my second verse. It's done. And then someone says, hey, that second verse is bad. It's like, I know, do you have any ideas for it? I'm like, yeah, it's done. You know? Sorry, I'm doing like fast answer now. Now I should do fast one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what do you do, how do you feel about when you're leading a larger congregation and you do songs with a lot of O-O-O's in them, like no longer slaves or there's a cloud validation worship? Can they relate to that, or is it an integral part of the song, so you kind of leave a lot of that out and keep it simple, or to me that's a neat part of the song, you keep it in?
Yeah, he's asking like certain songs that maybe have these moments that are kind of singing along, but it's not really saying anything, and you know, should you leave it in or should you take it out? I would say it kind of just depends on, you know, your church. It depends on your crowd, and yeah, the moment. You know, because there's sometimes that like people like want like a release like that, or like a moment to kind of breathe, and it's just kind of like a inspiring like sonic moment. But sometimes it might feel awkward at times, or it might feel like weird, and if it does, then say, hey, for that next time we do that song, let's not do that part. And it just kind of depends, you know. So, last question?
Last question for the Torwalts.
Katie?
Yes.
This is not so much a question, but more of a thank you guys, and also just something to share, that I go to Spanish service, and I didn't really listen to any English worship music, just Spanish. And my cousin here just opened the door to this realm, and I think it's amazing that you guys are using your God-given talents. But I can literally translate all of your songs because I've listened to all of your songs in Spanish. And I had no clue. And so when I heard your songs in English, I was like, I know this song. That's cool. But I think it's great, and I'm happy to be here. And you guys are amazing.
Thank you. That's so cool.
Well, thanks so much for showing up here for this hangout. I wish we had more time. What I've been doing, or what we've been doing before these, we open general doors for everybody else. So I think they asked this already, but show of hands, who actually is a part of a worship ministry or worship leader, or like even in ministry? Yeah, awesome. It seems like almost like 60, 70%. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and being here tonight. And there's going to be a lot of people here tonight. It's cool. It's like sold out.
Yeah.
3,000 people. It's going to be awesome. But I say that because we'd love for you guys, I mean, fill up the chairs as close to the stage as possible. And this is like, you know, there's not a big band here. It's just the four of us and a piano player. And these nights have been so special. And a part of it is, I think, largely like this group of people that we get to hang out with is like really setting the tone for the rest of the room of like what, like we can be free and sing out and worship and lift our hands and go to the aisles and come forward and kneel, and it's just like a real free night. And I just from our hearts to you, we'd love just to open up for you guys to be a part of the team. And it's not just saying that, like really be a part of our team and singing out and being a part of this night and showing a lot of people here. I mean, I think some people probably heard about this on like Caleb or The Fish and like, oh cool, a Christian concert, you know, and we're hoping maybe they would be just blown away and surprised by the presence of God tonight. And some people here, like, you know, coming in with so many stories, 3,000 people, the families and the stories, like the hurting hearts and the marriages that are breaking, and the people going through tough times, and people looking for breakthrough in their life, the people that maybe are doubting that God is a God of miracles, like all the stuff that's coming in, even in the room here, you know, let alone all the other people coming in. And we just, I would love your help and love to, not employ you, what is the word? Implore? No, that's not what I'm saying. Enlist you? I don't know. Enlist in the army of sing-along. I'd love to have you guys come and just be a part of setting the tone of what that means. And that's just like, man, let's just have some joy in this place and some freedom. And if you'd all pray with me for these people coming in, we'd love it. Lord, thank you so much